I think we are going to start right now. I want to say thank you to everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? I think so. Yeah, great. Okay, appreciate that. I've got my air conditioning on. It's a little bit loud. I'm gonna turn that down. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I'm Lisa Gold. I'm the Executive Director of A4, the Asian American Arts Alliance. And so happy to have you at our second virtual town hall. So the theme of tonight's town hall is Asian American artists working in solidarity with justice movements. And as the dumpster fire that is 2020 continues unabated, throwing us new disasters from Minneapolis to Portland, I am really grateful that we can come together like this, that we have the opportunity to inspire each other, support each other, you know, give solace and inspiration. So thank you for that. And I think one thing that we can all agree on is the importance of art in this moment, the value of art, the ability of artists to make sense of all of this and to help us process the world around us. So thank you all for being here and for doing what you do. It's an honor to learn from you and to work with you and to work in service to you. So for those of you who are familiar with A4, you know that we are dedicated to ensuring greater representation and equity and opportunities for Asian American artists and cultural organizations through resource sharing and promotion and community building. And this program, Town Hall, is a way that we you know, fulfill that aspect of our mission. I'm gonna just share a few basic housekeeping and Zoom protocol rules before we start. We're recording this event on we're recording it for to share later on our YouTube channel, but it's also being live streamed on Facebook. So I would love everybody to turn on their cameras if they feel comfortable doing so. If they don't, that's okay. But please mute yourself if you're not speaking. Also note that there is a raise hand function accessible by clicking on the participants icon. So if you want to raise your hand, you don't want to do it literally, you can use that icon. And feel free to send us any questions via the chat box. So who has been to a town hall before? You can either raise your hand like that, or you can give us your icon. That's great. Nice to see so many faces. It's great. I can't shout out to everybody, but I see so many familiar faces and community members. It's really great. So thank you all. So for those of you who have not participated in a town hall before, I'm going to tell you how it's going to go. So we have 2 featured presenters and we have 2 groups of 1-minute pitches. So after our first featured presenter, I'm going to call the names for the group A 1-minute pitches, and your names will also appear in order in the chat box. So be ready to go when your name is called. And as these 1-minute pitches are described, you have 1 minute to talk. And at the end of the minute, I'm going to mute you. So last month, things got a little out of hand with people going over their allotted time. So everyone now gets muted at the end of their 1 minute. So sorry, that's why we can't have nice things. We will repeat the process with our second featured presenter, followed by Group B or the second round of 1-minute pitches. And then we'll ask anybody else who wants to make a pitch to raise your hand, either virtually, ideally with the raise hand function, and we'll list your names in the chat box. For the final round of micro pitches, you'll have 30 seconds to talk about your project or your work or ask for support or whatever you want to do. So we'll call your name in that order. So introduce yourself, write your social media handle or your website in the chat box so we can share that with people after the event. And then once all the pitches are done, we are going to do a couple of breakout room conversations. So those usually run about 7 minutes, and it gives people opportunity to follow up, ask questions, share resources. Yeah, so it's not as good as the A4 potluck, but it's still a nice way to connect in small groups. So depending on how many people we have, we'll see how many how many Zoom rooms we have. Right now we have 72 people, so we'll probably have probably between 5 and 10 breakout rooms. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so before we start, I need to do just a couple of quick announcements and an acknowledgement. So as I mentioned, we are recording and live streaming tonight. So if you want to share via social, you can use the hashtag A4Townhall. Also, we have a post-event survey. So we just always want to learn from you. Again, we actually listen to you. That's why we're muting people after a minute. So please fill out the survey, give us your insights. We want to make this better. We want to know what works, what didn't work. If you want to be a featured presenter for the next town hall, or if you know somebody who would, or you just want to share ideas, that's great. Just fill out your form. We'll share the link to the form in the chat box and send it to you after the event. Super easy, only a couple questions. Okay, we have a couple of upcoming events. We've got several in the planning stages, but here's what's immediately on deck. So next Monday, July 27th from 5 to 7 p.m., we are participating in the LMCC office hours event, where you can meet LMCC staff, or you can speak with our own team to learn about artist opportunities, the LMCC 2021 Manhattan Arts Grants, or get feedback on any of your projects. So sign up for that. It's on our website. Also, our next town hall is going to take place Tuesday, September 22nd. And that event is going to focus on artists working on projects related to getting out the vote and the 2020 census. So again, more information will be on our website. You can sign up for that. Tell all your friends. We need to get counted. We are way underperforming in the census. So artists, do your magic, all right? We need the money and we need the representation. So again, check out our website. You can learn about these events, other community events. You can sign up for our newsletter, do it all at the website, aaartsalliance.org. A few thanks to our supporters at Capital One, Con Edison, New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, New York City Council, New York State Council on the Arts, National Endowment for the Arts, Race Forward, Shelley and Donald Rubin Foundation, and so many generous individuals and people just like you who make Town Hall possible. Okay, so we'd like to start with a land acknowledgement in our workshops. When we were meeting in person, Town Hall would have taken place in the A4 offices, which are on the land of the Lenape and Canarsie peoples. But since we're meeting virtually, I'd like to share a digital land acknowledgement, which was written by Canadian theater artist Adrienne Wong. Okay, since our activities are shared digitally to the internet, let's also take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We're using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many Indigenous communities. Even the technologies that are central to much of the art we make leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous peoples worldwide. I invite you to join me in acknowledging this, as well as our shared responsibility to make good use of this time, and for each of us to consider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. So now, I would like to introduce our first featured presenter, the director, Jess McLeod. Jess is a director who specializes in new work about American otherness and recently served as the resident director. Whoops, excuse me. Excuse me about that. He recently served as resident director for the 3-year run of Hamilton, Chicago. She has an extremely long list of credits that you can read on our website, ranging from There's Always the Hudson, which was at Woolly Mammoth before COVID shut us down, Pride and Prejudice at the Long Wharf, Wolf Play, Venus at the Steppenwolf, and she was also the Goodman Theatre's 2017 Michael Maggio Directing Fellow and a 2018 Artistic Fellow at Victory Gardens, where she'll direct Poor Yella Rednecks next season. She's developed operas with Chicago community groups and musicals with incarcerated teens through Storycatchers Theatre, and she earned her MFA from Northwestern University. She is represented by William Morris Endeavor. I give you Jess McLeod.
Hi, thanks, Lisa. Hi, everyone. It's my first one of these town halls, so bear with me, and thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I thought I'd just give a quick version of my story and fill in some of the gaps in between the credits, and then talk a little bit about the work that I've been doing. I grew up in San Francisco, and I grew up around a lot of people who looked like me and talked like me, so I didn't really realize that being AAPI was other or all that different until I went to the East Coast for college, and then actually ended up switching from wanting very badly to be an actor to being a director because of some racist encounters I had with old Williams College Theater Department back then. And what I wanted to do was use my position of power behind the table to try to make opportunities for all, especially non-white people and just everyone from underrepresented groups, to be able to tell whatever stories they want, to be able to be seen in whatever role they wanted to be seen. And so that's the work that I've been undertaking since then. That journey took me to New York, where I did a lot of arts administration, and then to Northwestern for grad school. And since then, for the last 10 years or so, I have been not satisfied by what I would call the white dysfunctional family play, which is so much of the theater that happens here. And I have really gone outside, gone beyond that to try to work in social justice organizations, any arts organization that was also folding that work, community work, into their artistic practice, and in trying to tell real stories, real humans, not just that one privileged story. And so Lisa mentioned I've worked with Storycatchers Theatre and created original musicals with incarcerated teens at the Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. By far the scariest directing gig I've ever had, much scarier than Hamilton, and also developed short operas, just loosely defined by developed story through song, with a lyric opera of Chicago through a pretty big grant, and I just really love developing. It helps reaffirm the power of art to me, to be able to work on making things and telling the stories of people who aren't just, whoever finds himself in the theater and makes their way to that rarefied thing that we are sometimes lucky enough and crazy enough to get to do. And so social justice work and community connection have been part of my work for a long time. In this particular moment, across the last 2 months, I have thought a lot about how I can help in my allyship in the short term, the near term, and the long term as both an individual and community member. And the way that breaks down for me is the short term, the immediate daily, is the stuff that I hope people are already doing: making calls, sending emails, signing petitions, following along the hashtags for Breonna Taylor and Elijah McClain, following Grassroots Law, Color of Change, the NAACP, the ACLU, Until Freedom. And that also means for me, how can I support protests and protesters? Either I am down there protesting, which I have been, very masked up, or donating to bail funds. There are also car caravans, because I live in Chicago, where people protest in cars, and that's a thing we can do. But really trying to provide support for everyone who is fighting on the front lines at the moment. When I think near term, that to me means helping everyone survive COVID. And I want to shout out untilwedoit.org, which is an amazing organization run by Ari Afsar, who was the first South Asian Eliza in Hamilton. She was with me in Chicago. And untilwedoit.org is trying to send 50 million masks all over the country to underrepresented communities, especially Black and Brown. Their big focus for the next month and a half will be getting masks to schools. And so helping everyone survive COVID, and then helping the arts survive COVID as well. And that to me means like what my friend Brooke Ishibasi is doing with beanartshero.com, which is a grassroots effort to call and email and harass senators to make sure that we can have some relief past this week, when the $600 a week runs out of our unemployment and we start to get into even more dire of a situation. I would also consider near term, and right now I'm just sharing with you the way my brain breaks these things down and organizes things, the election. And I'm so excited to hear that the next town hall is going to be all about how to support that. So I'll leave that work to them. And when I think long term, that's really about continuing to support grassroots social justice orgs past this moment, past the trending hashtags. How can we find a great grassroots org who is already doing the work and not reinvent the wheel, and even do something simple like set up a $10 monthly donation across the next year, across the next 2 years. There are really ways we can make a difference there. And I also think about education. Because that's certainly a place I really think artists can help, especially since we're not going to be back in a theater for probably another year, or at least another 9 months or so, and we've got some time and some brain space to do that. And then I think, who are my communities? Where are my spheres of influence? And that's how Asian Artists for Black Lives, which I just made up one Saturday night, came about. The National Day of Protest was May 30th, the first big one after George Floyd's murder, and May 31st, that would make it the last day of AAPI Heritage Month. And so that Saturday night, I just texted a couple of what we informally call the Hamalasians, Ari Afsar, Jin Ha, who's an activist, he was the first Asian Burr, Joseph Morales, who was the first full-time Asian Hamilton, and said, what do you think about getting all the Hamalasians together to raise a small amount, $5,000 for Campaign Zero, a cool organization that's been collecting data on the 18,000 police departments across the country. And they said, yes, let's absolutely do that. So I did that. I linked up with my friend Lauren Yee, who's a brilliant playwright who you probably know because she's everywhere. And she does a lot of community outreach with her plays, and said, what do you think? And she said, yes, I need to do something and I need to put my energy somewhere. I feel incredibly helpless, which is how so many of us were feeling, I think. And so I created a GoFundMe that dedicated the last day of AAPI month, so all day Sunday, to raise money for Campaign Zero. We dropped it live in the morning at 10 a.m. Within an hour, we'd made our $5,000 goal, and 12 hours later, we had raised $30,000 for this really cool organization and raised awareness for them as well. And this is really just a long way of me saying, the more we can learn about the orgs that are already doing the work, and the more we can identify our individual spheres of influence and see how we can mobilize them to do some good, that to me is really what allyship means in this moment. And then the last thing that means, because, also we're artists and we have stuff to say to each other and our communities. And just, I know that I have been doing a lot of work dismantling what I would call the model minority inside me. And Ari and I together created a 10-minute musical that premiered with Big Sky Theater in Montana that we teched remotely last week. And I wanted to share the middle song from that, which is called Keep Your Head Down. The whole piece is called Keep Your Head Down. This is the middle of 3 songs. People have had really strong reactions to it, and you may love it, you may hate it, it may speak to you, it may not. But this was our way of making some art that hopefully unpacks some of what is happening right now. So we can go ahead and press play on that if we're ready to do that. And we'll need the audio on that too, sorry. And can we go back a little bit just so we can hear it from the top?
Don't speak too loud, just stay the course, thankful for all you've been given. Keep your head down, throw your dreams out. It's not the way time will pay if you just listen. Well, Papa, he was poor, living through the Wharf before all fall. Just you. And Mama, she was tired, pushing down desire, hanging on the wire, all for you, only you. Just keep your head down. I've worked too hard to let you throw it all away. Please keep your head down. The family talk will make your mama go insane. How many must I obey? I've got respect, I won't forget all you've been through. But getting quite old, and silence, I'm told, will get me by. But why is it no one can see? Well, trying every day, living into gray, I can see your face on you, Papa. Patriotic pride, power stays inside, hasn't been a lie. Oh, but you know it's true. Just keep your head down. I've worked too hard to let you throw it all away. Please keep your head down. Where I come from won't help you anyway, so I keep my head down. I've worked so hard, so I'll vanish all the way. always sit down. I'll only dream. Holding my safety car tight, playing both sides. Then I'm mistrusted. Looking up, I never tried. I keep it inside, then I choose to forget it. Looking up, I never tried. I don't know why I always commit to keep my head down. I've worked so hard to let the world pass me by. I keep my head down. My family shame looks me in the eye, so I keep my head down. I've worked so hard to let the world pass me by. Always sit down. If I look up, what will I? Keep your head down. Keep your head down.
Great, thanks so much. That's my time, everyone. So, that's just kind of wanted to leave you all with that. Thanks for having me. There's more to say, but great to share with you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jess. That was great. I shared your Instagram handle in the chat box, and if there's anything else, yeah, feel free to, you can post your questions or you can chat in our breakout rooms. So now we're going to start with Group A, our 1 minute pictures. So remember, you have 1 minute and then I'm going to mute you. So on deck, Cecile Chong, Rohan Bhargava, Leslie Condon, Victor Chen, Alex Chester, Sion Wang, Kathleen Goulding, Ja Balsambut, Ashley Solomon, Supai Yang, Tyler Hampong, and Sangeeta Kausik. So, okay, Cecile, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let me get my timer. Let me get my timer here. And okay, you can go.
Great, thank you. I'm a visual artist based in Brooklyn. I was born in Ecuador to Chinese parents. The picture that you see is El Dorado, the New 49ers, which is a traveling public art installation installed in each of the 5 boroughs of New York City, 1 borough per year. Next month, it will be installed at the Newhouse Center for Contemporary Art at Snug Harbor on Staten Island, so please visit. In 2017, I was triggered by the president's attitude towards immigrants, so I created El Dorado to honor the 49% of New York City households that speak a language other than English. Growing up in Ecuador, we were obsessed with the history of El Dorado when the Spanish conquistadores arrived in South America and demanded all the gold and treasures which were never found. And I thought, what if I would present it in New York City as a contemporary archaeological site? So I made 100 sculptures and I painted 49 of them gold. The image that you see is from Brooklyn, from Queens, and from the Bronx, the bottom 2, at Wakefield from last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecile. Rohan?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rohan and I'm the founder of Roboco Dance Company. I am a Jaden Wong Fellow for 2020 and I'm pitching a new dance theater work called Jugaad. We can go to the next slide. Jugaad is a term coined by Indian businesses to denote innovative business solutions that are cost-effective and convenient. However, Jugaad is not just a business strategy. Visible everywhere in India, Jugaad is essentially a way of living. It doesn't always work. It pushes against boundaries and it conflicts with Western society's emphasis on structure and order. My vision is to use Jugaad to create an evening-length work of dance theater. Next slide, please. The mission of Jugaad is to create a space for contemporary Indian artists to explore and celebrate their identity. Moreover, by providing an authentic cultural experience for audience members, I want to challenge the existing appropriation of Indian lifestyle in Western art. Next slide. I'm looking for South Asian contemporary dancers, composers, musicians, and costume and set designers. Any recommendations for organizations or individuals who could support the project are appreciated. Next slide. Please reach out to me if you'd like to talk or have questions, and thank you so much for listening.
Fantastic, that's great. Next up, Leslie Condon. Leslie?
Oh, did you guys hear me? Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Hi, my name is Leslie Ann Condon, and I'm the curator of a project called New Narratives, Reclaiming Asian Identity Through Story. I developed the project to amplify the voices of our many Boston area Asian communities. New Narratives is an art exhibition and storyteller series through Unbound Visual Arts in partnership with the Asian American Resource Workshop, the Dorchester Art Project, Asian Glow Boston, and POW Art Center. The exhibition is launching tomorrow, though you can check out the artwork now on the UVA website. Our virtual exhibition is taking place this Friday, July 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. The program includes an artist roundtable discussion facilitated by me and a storyteller open mic segment hosted by Jane Park of Asian Glow Boston. You can register for the event by going to the Unbound Visual Arts website or Facebook page, and I hope you will join us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much, Leslie. Okay, our next presenter, Victor Chen. Victor? Go right ahead.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
I've lived in New York since 1949. I'm a writer, and what you're looking at now is the author page for me on Amazon, showing some of my books. Some of it is quite artistic, short stories and poetry and parodies and things like that. But a lot of it has to do with my life, which has, I think, been important in being used by the media and the city and the world, really. I think I'm part of a critical problem right now with the pandemic. I think a lot of that may have to do with my accusations and the secrets that are bound up with me. And if anyone wants to find out about it, they can read my books. They're readily available from Amazon there. You can scroll through them. I'd be happy to hear from people in the Asian American arts.
Okay, thank you, Victor. Our next presenter is Alex Chester. Alex?
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, I'm the editor-in-chief of the online magazine, Hapa Mag. Hapa Mag is written by Mixed Asians for Everyone. We are looking to give a platform or to collaborate with different groups of people, of organizations, featuring furthering the social justice causes. So if you can reach out to me at the email, thehapamag@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at the Hapa Mag. We're also on Facebook. We have an issue in August, and we are featuring Mixed in America. And we are also working with this other group called Blasian Project. Hapa Mag was recently featured as one of 3 online magazines in the Nielsen report for the 2019 Asian American Consumer Report. Yeah, we're just looking to create community and to promote voices and get some work done. And our 3-year anniversary is coming out in September. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Alex. Next up, we have Xian Wang. Xian?
Hi, just unmuted myself. Hi everyone, so nice to see so many people here. Hopefully meet some of you in person one day. The person controlling the slide, you can just flip through it. My name is Xian Wang. I am a Chinese American visual artist. I'm here to ask for your support of my exhibition, 5 cents a can, Making Visible the Invisible. I paint the people who pick up cans for a living in my neighborhood. While there's a diverse population who depend on redeeming cans and bottles for a living, I noticed there is disproportionately Asian older women. While we admire the strength of their spirit to survive, this exhibition aims to raise questions about migration, inequality, and aging while poor and Asian. I already debuted this exhibition last November 2019 at a gallery in Manhattan's Chinatown, and it was very well received, but it was only for 3 weeks. Now I'm trying to find a space here in New York City, as well as in other cities around the country, to show this exhibition so we can continue, start and continue the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Siam. That's your minute. Okay, next is Kath Goulding.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kath Goulding. I am a founder of a new educational organization called URI, an Asian American Education Project. Next slide. Our primary goal in creating URI is to bring Asian American history and stories to K through 12 schools. Next slide. We're named after Yuri Kochiyama, of course, a longtime Harlem resident and activist, cross-racial activist, and we try to help educators tell a more complete narrative of history. Next slide. We've done a few projects so far, including writing curriculum to documentary films, doing curriculum writing workshops with teachers that are now published on PBS Learning Media, and we just finished a curriculum for an educational video game called Mission US, which has a module on the Japanese American incarceration. Next slide. And you can reach us at Yuri Education Project on Twitter or yurieducationproject.com. Looking forward to connecting with you all. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much, Kath. Next up is Bonnie Cheng. Bonnie?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Bonnie and I'm the program coordinator for Resist, Recycle, Regenerates program at the WOW Project. So for some context, the WOW Project is a community-based initiative that reinvents, perseveres, and encourages Chinatown's creative culture and history through arts, culture, and anti-gentrification activism. Currently, we're recruiting for the RR program, which is a women-centric youth leadership program that aims to intersect art and activism, political education. We're currently recruiting for Chinese American girls and non-binary youth from age 16 to 21 based in New York City, interested more about the role of art in political education and activism. So we have a very cool lineup of artists and educators for this upcoming year. For example, Vivian Strong from CAV, Jess X Snow, and Nissa Chow. And to apply, please send a letter of interest and a list of past related experiences to the WOW Project at wingongmo.co. I can also link the email and our Google form in the chat for you to apply and our website. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next up, Ashley Solomon.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Okay, it's so nice to see everyone's faces. I've been in New York for 14 years and I just relocated temporarily, so it's nice to see everyone. But I'm a visual artist and I work in textiles, printmaking, gouache ink, and I'm seeking, ways to interact with the community. This is my first time making an effort to reach out to the theatrical and creative and artistic Asian community out there, and I'm really excited to see everybody and hope to collaborate with you and meet you in the future in person someday. And I also do costume design for stage and mostly new works, musicals, operas, and would love to just meet everyone and listen to what you have to say. Thank you for all the great projects and inspiration. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashley. Okay, next is Supa Yang. Sue?
In America, over 30% of workers have either experienced or observed bullying in the workplace. As a workers' compensation judge in New Jersey, I saw how workplace bullying can cause severe psychological injury to the victims with negative impact on their families. So after retirement, I worked with others to establish the National Workplace Bullying Coalition with the goal to eliminate bullying in the workplace through education and legislation. We also offer advice on employer policies to eliminate workplace bullying and to provide anti-bullying policies for collective bargaining agreements. Please check our website at workplacebullyingcoalition.org to learn more about us. Our proposed state legislation called Dignity at Work Act DAWA can be found at dignityattworkact.org. If you or an organization you know would be interested in working with us to tackle this issue, please contact us by email at info@workplacebullyingcoalition.org and info@dignityattworkact.org.
Thank you so much, Sue. That is your minute, but you got it in right at the end. That's great. Okay, so next up is Tyler Hampong. Tyler?
Hey everybody, my name is Tyler Hampong. Thank you so much for having me here. I am the coordinator of the Asian American Film Lab's 72-hour film shootout. If you're not familiar with it, it's a filmmaking competition where you make a movie in, you guessed it, 72 hours. So we have a workshop coming up with one of our judges of the shootout. He's going to be a special guest on a virtual Q&A on acting and filmmaking on August 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He's a writer, director, teacher, founder of AMAW, which is an acting school worldwide, and he's the mentor for our Outstanding LGBT Filmmaker Award and Outstanding LGBT Performer Awards at the shootout. Tickets for the workshop are donation-based, but registered filmmakers from the shootout get in for free. And it's a link to a Zoom, password protected, where you'll discuss acting, filmmaking, industry tips, all that fun stuff. I'll be there, so if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to share the link to the Eventbrite in our chat. And yeah, thank you all for having me here.
Sorry, I was muted because of my dog. Okay, thank you, Tyler. And our last pitch in this group is Sangeeta Kausik. Sangeeta, are you here?
I unmuted myself. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see everyone. So my name is Sangeeta Kausik. I'm the founder of Ehsan Ishan Design. Basically, I combined Arabic and Sanskrit. I'm Hindu, but I do Islamic and Arabic calligraphy. I basically started this brand to oh, hey, James, to battle Islamophobia within the South Asian American community, especially. But it has since evolved. And this piece I did for Black Lives Matter, especially for the Black Lives Matter movement. I just made it into a foil print, which I plan on selling and giving the proceeds to NAACP. So if you look on my website, every one of my pieces tells a story. I basically I'm also the Hindu chaplain of NYU and Columbia University, was the head designer for the Metropolitan Museum, and worked in fashion for a long time. So I basically combine education, museum, fashion, my chaplaincy, and activism to launch this brand. So I hope you take the time to look on my website and read the deeper meanings behind each of my artwork. And again, it's great to see everyone, and thank you so much for sharing your meaningful work with me. It means a lot.
Great, thank you so much, Sangeeta. That's beautiful. All right, so now, thank you all. Everybody was very, very speedy this time around. So I am so excited to introduce you to our next featured presenter, Ameya Okamoto. So Ameya is from Portland, Oregon, and has worked extensively as an artist and an organizer within Black Lives Matter, connecting families impacted by racialized violence, and creating memorial portraits for protests, social media campaigns, and candlelight visuals. Ameya strives to make art more accessible by bringing art to communities that would otherwise not have access, and by amplifying their stories to inspire more understanding, empathy, and progress. In 2018, her art and work in youth advocacy and education took her to the White House for a confrontational visit as a US presidential scholar in art. Her work has been profiled by Paper Magazine, NPR, The Washington Post, and Adobe. She was recently announced a top 6 rising art star by the New York Post and is a 2019 Adobe Creativity Scholar. I give you Ameya Okamoto.
Hello, can you all hear me? Okay, so I'm gonna open up with a little vulnerability. So I'm holding this megaphone very close to me because first, I have 2 notes. The first one is that when you are a young Asian woman of color, it is very hard to feel like you have a voice and a place, not only in this community and the world, but just in yourself to have a voice. So megaphone, which is my megaphone, is named Tandiwe after my friend who is a organizer in LA. It helps me remember that even though I feel small, I still have a voice and I am big. And even if I have a small voice, I can amplify it. I also want to say that, I am from Portland, Oregon, the widest major city in America, which is what I will touch on a little bit in this talk. But oftentimes I was the only Asian person in my classrooms or in my city. My community where I grew up was very predominantly white, to the point that the only other Asians that I interacted with for sometimes weeks was my own family, which is just my sisters and my mom. So for me, this talk is a really big deal because I've done talks before, but never particularly within an Asian community and never to a particularly Asian American audience. As you all know, Asian and Asian Americans are very different from each other. So I'm very excited, honored to share a little bit of my story in this space, and hopefully inspire and share community with you all. So thank you. Next slide. So that's just me. Next slide. Okay, so my goals for this talk are to explore activism and Asian American identity, understand intersectionality in advocacy, and learn how to get involved for me and from you all. So next slide. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of story time. I'm gonna talk a little bit about protest art and memorialization. I'm gonna talk about the concept of the in-betweeners, which I hope you all are familiar with. We're gonna answer the question, what can I do? And then I'm gonna talk about Irresistible, which is my new company. Next slide. Okay, so this is me growing up. That's me in the center, dressed up as a turkey. So I was born in 2000 in New York City to my mom, Sophia, the most badass, powerful Asian American woman I know. I'm half Japanese, half Taiwanese, first gen, second gen. My biological father was an immigrant, and I had the most colorful childhood. As you can see, I was such a happy kid. I had these Kusama pants, I had this crazy bowl cut, but there was a lot of hurt that was being hidden from my family, and my mom was amazing at protecting us and making sure that me and my three sisters were safe and we could explore and have fun, but at the same time there's a lot of struggle. So the center is actually from, I think, a 2006 or 2007 Thanksgiving, when we couldn't afford a turkey. So instead of affording a turkey for Thanksgiving, we turned me into a turkey. So it's a little bit of a glimpse into my childhood growing up. Was very much like fun, spontaneous New York City, and my mom, who was working her ass off, where she had us fairly young, was doing her best to kind of give us this childhood. Next slide. So under the veneer of all of this was a lot of pain. I was born with an amazing mother, but my father was a very not good man, and there's a domestic violence within my family growing up. And in 2007, my mom finally, had enough, and she packed all our bags, my two sisters and I, and we moved to Portland, Oregon. So I grew up in New York City in downtown, and my mom basically was like, let's get the furthest away possible from the city. And that happened to be Portland, Oregon, Whitelandia, which is the whitest major city in America and literally the opposite coast from New York. So she picked us up and she moved us across the country. And this is a photo, which is probably the saddest photo I have of me, taken of me and my sisters walking through JFK. But it was this huge tipping point in my life of this, weird kid. You can already tell like all the artsiness is in me with that like weird bowl cut, and my mom always let me pick my outfit, so I was always wearing these like weird cowboy clothes. Next slide. So Portland, to give you some statistics, is the widest major city in America. So Portland in 2020 is where 77% white, Asian alone is about 8%, Black is 5.8%, Hispanic and Latinx 9.7%, and a Native American, Alaska, Pacific Islander, this is I think I should have edited my statistics a little bit, but what the takeaway is, this is the whitest major city. You know, I grew up within this major city, and, you know, my mom made a lot of sacrifices. She's Asian, so she made a lot of sacrifices for the best school districts. So I grew up, my childhood growing up was triple bunk beds and apartment buildings, and kind of within Portland is kind of, you know, it was my Asian mom trying to survive culturally and emotionally, and you know, hold the space for three abused kids in the whitest major city in America. And this was kind of the biggest wake-up call for me when I realized my Asianness. Because in New York, my Asianness was always a conversation, right? Your Asianness in this diverse city is always in collaboration with other people. But all of a sudden, I was Asian within whiteness, and all of a sudden, I was Asian because I was Asian, and not because it was my race. I was Asian because I was completely Asian. And so I spent a lot of my childhood kind of dealing with that tension, in, you know, wanting to, it threw me into my lens of racial justice, which is the lens that I do everything in my life with. Every breath I take, every step I make, every art I create is through the lens of race. Because in 2007, when I was 7 years old, it came down like a hammer. So this kind of took me on this life path of like creating art for social change now, but it was lots of like small steps of activism. You know, I did a lot of campaigning around Equal Oregon for the gay rights movement, for Great Equal Love Oregon, and I ended up being a Gleason Student Advocate of the Year for my work with Day of Silences and PPS. I was in a lot of small workshops around anti-bullying. Next slide. And then in 2014, Michael Brown was shot and killed in Ferguson, Missouri. As a growing 13-year-old at this time, the Black Lives Matter movement hit me really hard. You know, we are not Black, but I think everybody who is of difference and non-white can relate to the feeling of difference and the feeling of not enough and the feeling of why is this person oppressing me? You know, that is something I deeply related to. And there's a lot of nuance here, but what ended up happening is I ended up starting to create art kind of for this movement. I didn't really have a plan. So this art piece was created in 2015, and that's Michael Brown at the center, and we have Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, you know, lots of different individuals here. And these are kind of like the 9 catalysts at the time in 2015. There were only like 9 kind of making headlines, you know. And this ended up getting to Teresa Rayford, who is the founder of Don't Shoot Portland PDX. And in 2015, I think it was early 2015, 2016, or early 2016, I ended up meeting Teresa Rayford at a coffee shop in Oregon. And what has continued on since then has been a 6, almost 7-year partnership from this 15-year-old little Asian girl with Teresa Rayford, who is now running Don't Shoot Portland, running for Portland mayor as the first black mayor in Portland. And if you all know, Portland is making headlines right now for the most violent, harrowing protests across the country. And the federal agents are in Portland currently actively silencing and kidnapping protesters off the street. And Teresa Rayford is leading the movement for Black Lives here. So next slide. So this is me in 2018, after 3 years of working with Teresa. This is kind of my first march. You can see my fashion has changed quite a bit, but that megaphone was passed down to me from Teresa on this day, which was MLK Day, which was we have marches a lot. And what I have learned growing up as a young person working within the Black Lives Matter movement and working with an organization and a founder who values art so deeply, we use the hashtag #YouCan'tControlArt, is that art has the power to not only change and shift culture, but also in protest, it has a very big role. So you can tell we have lots of different images and stuff going on in the left image, and banners are an important part of protest because it lets onlookers know this is a real protest, respect us, but it also is a physical banner against potential violence. And Teresa handing me her megaphone and actually gifting it to me eventually at 18 years old was a big moment in my own journey as a young Asian American woman, learning that I have a place and a voice in social justice. You know, I think it would be a mistake to say that I don't think about my Asianness every single day. And every single thing that I do in, within Black Lives Matter, I have to do through the lens as an Asian American woman. But it was incredibly validating for me to be in the whitest major city in America, already feeling silenced for my identity and my personal experiences in Portland, to have Teresa Rayford kind of pass on the mic to me. And that is why, if you are in Portland, you should write in Teresa for mayor. Next slide. Okay, so my work with Don't You Portland reached a climax, I think, emotionally for me in February 2017, when Quantus Hayes, who was 17 years old, was shot and killed in Portland, Oregon. And he was 17 and I was 16 at the time. And at the time, I had been creating lots of posters with Don't You Portland, but Quantus Hayes was special because I had been working directly with families impacted by racialized violence in the past. And all of a sudden, it was this real moment. And I remember I was in mock trial, and I got a call from Teresa on the phone, and I picked it up, and she said something happened. And she basically explained that literally less than 24 hours ago, there's a 17-year-old who was shot and killed a couple Mac stops away from me. And I took my computer, I sat on the floor, and I literally locked myself in a room, and I quit mock trial, and I created this piece, which ended up being able to replace a lot of the negative imagery that was being pushed out by the media of him, and all of the stories that were being told of him, like false narratives with outdated mugshots. And this was kind of the moment at 16 years old that I realized the power in memorialization and the power of art, no matter who you are, in the fight for Black Lives Matter, but also in the fight for social justice, because art has the opportunity to change lives, memorialize, and change narratives. And this was that moment for me in overturning that kind of part in my brain that my art has impact. And I've been so lucky to be working with the Hayes family for a while. Next slide. So in memorialization, let me just make this thing smaller. In memorialization, I have recently kind of come on this idea of complex personhood. A lot of people, there's so many different types of memorialization imagery that is being shown right now. After the George Floyd protests, we had, Sharon Kreitz and Andre Guzman and all these different artists kind of creating these viral imagery, these viral, almost meme-like images of these victims of police violence, which is valid, and we need those art pieces to kind of move the conversation forward, and we need those art pieces, I think, for mass attention and mass gathering. However, what I'm trying to do with my portraits, which a lot of them are working directly with these families, is kind of push this idea of complex personhood forward, which is the definition that even those who live in the most dire circumstances possess a complex and often contradictory humanity and subjectivity that is never adequately glimpsed by viewing them as victims. And this is borrowed by Susan Dewey, who's actually she does research on sex workers and about how sex workers are often not viewed as complete persons. And so very similar with victims of police violence, is they became a name or a hashtag, when in reality these are real people with real families and real impact, and had real impact, and they had siblings and girlfriends and boyfriends. So I try to retain that sense of complex personhood and push that idea and narrative forward in all of my work. So it requires a lot of research, a lot of planning, a lot of collaboration. Next slide. So this has kind of developed into 6-7 years of doing this work, and these are some of my most recent portraits. The left is, and above me is an image of George Floyd. The middle is Rayshard Brooks, and the right is Sandra Bland, who we just had. We're just coming up on the 5-year anniversary. We just passed the 5-year anniversary of her death in Texas. So you can see a lot of development in the past 6 years in my own artistic style, but also in my own understanding of my art and my art's role in inspiring social progress, and in my art's role for my own sense of justice work. Next. This is most recently I wanted to hold space for Shandy Harris, who is an 18-year-old who was shot and killed due to a domestic violence relationship last weekend. So this piece was created for her family in the wake of her death, and is being used very closely to kind of celebrate her life right now in Oregon and tell her story beyond. So I just wanted to hold space for Shandia. Next slide. So I know somebody mentioned in the town hall their work around Yuri Kochiyama, and you know, when I was in high school, we had this day called Women's Empowerment Day for like the elementary school, and people dress up as, you know, figures that inspire them. And I remember I was like, who the hell am I going to dress up as a young Asian woman, you know, fighting for the liberation of Black lives? And I chose Yuri. I remember all I did was I put like a little thing on my head, and I put glasses on, because the reality is there are not a lot of Asian people, but especially East Asian people, in the fight for the liberation of Black Lives Matter. And one of those people, however, I found is Jeff Chang, who I know was a speaker at a previous town hall. And I love this quote from him, which is, Asians are in between black and white, in between complicity and freedom, narrow self-interest and equal justice. We have the luxury and privilege of sitting on the fence, of waiting out the battle, of refusing to engage. But I think racial justice impacts us all, and now is the time not to be neutral. And We Gon' Be Alright, which is this is where this quote is from, literally comes with me everywhere I go. It's very loved, it's very tattered, it has lots of notes in it, because the reality is that we need more Asian people who are willing to break the norm and not be complicit. And I love the concept of being in between black and white and complicity and freedom, because we have the privilege of the decision to choose where we stand on racial justice right now. Next slide. So we are the in-betweeners, which is a little bit of not the prettiest word ever, but it helps me to think about the title of an in-betweener, helps me a lot when I think about Asian identity, because I think it helps me grapple with the idea of privilege and grapple with the idea of my own positioning in the fight for Black Lives Matter, but also racial justice in general, right? We are in between, but that does not invalidate the fact that we have oppressive experiences. You know, just because I've been, you know, living in Portland and I've been oppressed and I've been spit on, I've been, you know, pushed around, I've been excluded and and my mom has been kicked out of book clubs here, that does not mean that we are, does not excuse the fact that there are so many nuanced parts of racial justice and oppression and racism throughout the country, and Asian Americans, as the in-betweeners, have a responsibility, I think, and a duty to choose the right side of history. Next slide. So as an in-betweener, you know, we have the decision to choose. As an Asian American within Portland, Oregon, Portland is not in a dissimilar position. So Portland is a city, you know, I don't know if, raise your hand if you know what Portlandia is. Has anyone seen Portlandia? So Portlandia is this TV show that is now canceled, but it's kind of, the basis of Portlandia was that keep Portland weird, keep Portland liberal, keep Portland crazy, you know? It's a lot of naked people running around and free-range chicken and veganism, and that's true. Like, I'm totally a Portlander. However, Portland is also under the veneer of liberalism and progressivism, which is not necessarily true. And I can speak to that personally as a non-white person growing up here in the whitest major city in America that somehow has gained the reputation of liberalism and progressivism. So these are some basic screenshots. I just looked up progressive Portland, and you can see the narrative of Portland is changing in our very eyes. Portland is an in-betweener, and Portland has the decision to choose right now what side of history it's on. So if you're not in Portland, I urge you to call your mayors or your senators and beg them to ask our mayors and senators to make a public statement to get federal troops out of Oregon, because we are the currently most violent city doing direct action. Next slide. So everyone has a place for justice work, and if everyone has a place, there is a place for everyone in justice work, and there's a place for everyone in justice work because we need everyone to take down the system. This is a value that has been instilled within me. You know, there's been a lot of process of understanding what this means, because as an Asian American person, I do understand and recognize my, you know, proximity to whiteness and my proximity to privilege to be able to do this work with a little less autonomy, with a little more autonomy and a little less fear. But that is our role as in-betweeners, is to step up to the plate. And if you feel unsafe and if you feel nervous about doing that, rest assured there's a place for everyone in justice work, because it impacts you too. Next slide. So in this work, through all the critique and through all the struggles of my personal identity and understanding what it means to be an Asian for Black lives, I have found this quote, which is, "The role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible." And so I hold that very close to my heart whenever I think about why I do what I do and what I do. Next slide. So this has expanded into lots of different collaborations. I have been lucky enough to have been raised social justice-wise by Teresa Rayford in Black Lives Matter. However, as an Asian American person, as an in-betweener, I recognize my role as somebody who has to step up to come within complicity, but also the role of the artists to make the revolution irresistible. So why not all revolutions, you know? We are at a time when we are, you know, an increasingly complex world, increasingly challenging time in 2020. So I'm really urging, I think, artists to respond however they can to whatever struggles that may be. So I have collaborations here with Planned Parenthood, Stories from the Border, Immigration, APANO, the Asian American Network of Oregon, and Alicia Garza of Black Lives Matter LA, and of course one of the founders of BLM, and a portrait of Toni Morrison. So just sharing more of my art. Next slide. So as an Asian American, and as somebody who is not Black within Black Lives Matter, and working for this, you know, movement for quite some time, I often get the questions, people sliding into my DM saying, what can I do? And the first thing is that the work starts within us, right? Are you reading your material? Are you researching the artists? Are you researching the people who are Asian, who have done the research into how we can be better allies? So the work starts with us, and especially as artists, the work starts with making the revolution irresistible. Next slide. And in response to this question of what can I do, I recently founded Irresistible, LLC, which is which we're still developing, but when the George Floyd protests first began, and this in the middle of coronavirus, I started getting a lot more requests for the artwork that needs to happen. And I started realizing that I cannot do 20 different things at once. And I started delegating these tasks to my friends who were not familiar with doing social justice art, but I just give them copy and I'd give them instructions and I'd pay them out of pocket. And I realized that there's actually a role for this. There's actually kind of like something very important about, you know, somebody paying somebody to do social justice art and validating that art. So Irresistible is here to give kind of mini grants and give monetary funding to artists to do social justice art and validate that as a form of fine art. Because as an artist who I balance between, you know, the protest and the streets as my gallery and fine arts galleries in New York City, which I kind of reject for all the androcentrism. However, I as someone who exists in between, I want to bridge that gap. And that's what Irresistible is trying to do, is validate social justice art as fine art by paying. Next slide. So not all of us should play each role in social change work. Complicity is inevitable, and there's no right way to do this work. I often have to, you know, when people come at me and say, you're anti-Black, you're complicit, I say, yes, I am. Because there is no way for any of us to participate in this system of injustice and participate in America, which is defined by capitalism and racial structures, to be complicit. I'll be completely honest, I order my megaphones off Amazon, and that is like probably not okay. I'm gonna get hate for saying that out loud maybe, but there is no way to kind of participate in this world without being complicit. And it's that duality of balancing that reality with the fact that we need to keep playing a role in social justice work. It's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, right? But as long as we know what we're fighting for, who we are, and what our goal is. So shut the fuck up is not what this means, it's show the fuck up. So there are so many different roles which I've listed here in ways of social justice. And it's all about finding that role. Next slide. So my final slide, which is learn, unlearn, and repeat. I wake up in the morning thinking about this. Learn, unlearn, and repeat. Listen, learn, shut up, listen. Sometimes it's just our own learning. But at the end of the day, never stop showing up. So I am going to do this little activity with everyone, and I can't see everyone's face. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger because I do want to see. So I want everyone to actually, I want to give a shout out. I think Jolly Rapper is one of my friends here, and he's actually on this call, and he's a poet, and he helped me build these last couple questions. So I want to give a shout out to Jolly. But I want everyone to actually stand up if they can and kind of get back. And I want to ask you a question, which is, how do you hold your Asian? So I want everyone to take a deep breath and think about how they hold their Asian. And I want you to do this in a physical pose. Do you hold your Asian like this? Do you hold your Asian behind you and do you hide it? Do you hold your Asian like this? Do you hold your Asian on your shoulder and let it talk to you? Do you hold your Asian on your pinky finger? Is it a chip on your shoulder? How do you hold your Asian? So I want you to show me right now how you hold your Asian, or whatever other racial identity you're dealing with. How do you hold it? So if you can see the tiny screen, I want you to look and see how someone else is holding their Asian. So this is how I hold mine. So now I want you to in motion, I want you to think about, how do you take care of your Asian? Do you stroke it? Do you pet it? You know, do you take care of it? Do you blow on it like a fire? You know, do you put it down? Do you stomp on your Asian? You know, how do you take care of your Asian? Do you feed it dumplings? Char siu bao? You know, how do we take care of our Asian? And now in one motion, I want you to show, how do you share your Asian? You know, how do you share your Asian with others? Do you hold it out, like, you know, and spirit it away? You know, do you smother it on other people? do you hold it in people's face? How do you share your Asian with people? How do you share your Asian? Okay, I love seeing the people doing these motions in the chat. So I'm gonna sit down now, and I'm gonna ask everyone to take a deep breath with me, because thinking about Asian identity is really hard, because I do want to acknowledge the fact that I have struggled a lot with, you know, even being in this space, because I myself did not identify as an Asian person for so long, because I wanted to be white so bad. I was that banana kid. I'm a banana, don't worry, you know. But I want us to take a deep breath and acknowledge, you know, the work that we just did together is thinking about how we hold our Asian, not only by ourselves, but also within this space. And I want you to take a little minute. I was not keeping track, so I don't know how long this talk has been. But I want you to take a breath and think about, how does your Asian influence how you show up for others? And I want you to type it in and message that in the chat and answer to that question. And I want to thank you for holding space for me and letting me share some of my story. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ameya. That was remarkable, just so inspiring. And you made it irresistible. I think everybody here is just ready to get to work. So thank you again. That was wonderful. Great. So there are there's a lot of chatter going on. So we are going to kind of speed things up here now, and we are going to move into our Group B pitches. So Dorothea Mendoza, James Boo, Natasha Sinha, Georges Bridges, Melanie de Guzman, Sunoko Kawahara, YY Sim and Shandavar, Ashley Hermosura, Katharina Nguyen, Murray Paspi, and Hong Zhen Hong. We will start with Dorothea.
Hi, that's Dorothea, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm with Sari Sari Women of Arts Coup, and we want to create a space that explores the unity of Zen practice, meditation and mindfulness, art and action. Last year, we gathered Zen practitioners, artists, and activists, and we explored the unity of our practices. We want to build that energy. So we're imagining a community of artists engaged in a moment-by-moment practice of mindfulness, art making, and really embodying peace, justice, liberation in everything that we do. And we want to hear from you, our fellow artists. Are you interested in this kind of investigation? Are you interested in collectively creating processes, principles, art forms that embody interconnectedness? So give us a holler and let us know. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oops. Okay, next up, James Boo.
Hey, I've never used this mic before. Am I coming through?
Yes.
Hey, cool. Okay, hey, my name's James. Thanks for having me back at Town Hall. I talk fast. I run a podcast called Self-Evident. It is a journalistic and documentary style audio program that tells Asian American stories to challenge the narratives that shape American life and society. So on the next slide, I'd like to tell you about our new season of stories. This is branding is pretty outdated actually, but we are presenting a new season of episodes starting next month. And a bulk of the stories will follow Asian American folks from across the country confronting racism throughout the timeline of the pandemic. Along the way, we are actually looking for stories from our own listeners and from anyone else in the community to share on social media. So on the next slide, my main ask here today is just this second bullet. If anyone here has been doing the work to discuss anti-Blackness and racism with your families, we know a lot of people are putting a lot of energy into this, and we are just looking to hear about what your experiences are and see if there's something that we could record and incorporate into the program. We're also launching a Patreon next month. That's pretty self-explanatory, but thanks, and hopefully I'll talk to you in the breakout.
Thank you so much, James. Next is Natasha.
Hi everyone, I'm Natasha Sinha. I'm at Signature Theatre and Beehive Dramaturgy Studio, but today I'm actually here to talk about another effort. Amplifying Activists Together is an email list that I've started with Ella Rose Cherry and Jay Stoll. Please join us Friday at 1 p.m. for our next 1-hour push to fight for workers who have received no government assistance, mostly Black and Latinx folks. I'm dropping links in the chat, so please click now so you can look it up later. The links have more info, but what I want to say here is that this is genuinely designed to be simple yet meaningful, minimal time commitment, maximum impact for progressive and radical movements. Like Jess was saying, the day in, day out activists have long been doing the work, so this is really to amplify them, to gather thoughtful folks like you, like all of us, and simplify the action steps from the activists so it's all easy and comfortable and all in an hour, 1 hour of potent action each week rather than, you know, caring deeply but ultimately taking no action. So I hope to see you Friday, and I'm dropping, I have the links in the chat here. I'll put them on Facebook too. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Next up, Georges Bridges.
Hi, my name is Georges Bridges, and I'm from the Asian American Film Lab. We promote ethnic and gender diversity in the film industry, and I'm one of the coordinators for one of our oldest programs, which is called Unfinished Works. And we're currently looking for stories in written and video format concerning COVID-19 racism. You can send those stories to info@film-lab.org. Also, we're currently looking for interns. We'd love to have you if you'd like to be an intern. You can also contact us at that same email, info@film-lab.org. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Georges.
You're welcome.
Next up, Melanie de Guzman.
Hi, I'm Melanie de Guzman. Pleasure to be here. I'm an artist based in LA and mostly New York. And I'm so excited to announce that starting in July 26th, and it's gonna run all the way to August 6th. It's a 15-day virtual summer intensive. I am going to be teaching 7 classes, 3 Pilates and 4 embodiment breathwork at Ugnayan, which is premiering 28 Philippine artists and choreographers and dancers. And I'm so excited to just connect with the motherland and teach. I haven't been to the Philippines in 18 years. And what the state of the matter is, we are connecting social activism with what's happening in the Philippines and amplifying just artist voices in LA, Chicago, and everywhere in New York. So I'm dropping the intensive and information in the chat, and it's all kinds of classes. You don't have to be a professional dancer. So thank you guys so much, and that's it.
Great, thank you, Melanie. Next up, Sonoko Kawahara. Sonoko? Hello. Is Sonoko with us? I guess.
Sorry.
There you are.
Do you hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Sonoko Kawahara from Crossing Jamaica Avenue. I've been approaching how to respond to this whole environment through kids, like focusing on how kids being in a situation. So I've been creating very, very interactive Zoom theater focusing for kids and family. In fact, they can meet on Zoom from Japan, from any place. So just, I hope this slide works. So yeah, let's see. Do you hear music? I have a music. Do you play music? Can you play music?
I'm sorry, we did not have music, but if you have a link, you can put it in the chat box and people can listen to it that way. Thank you. Next up, YY and Sean Devar. Sean and YY.
Hello, hi everyone. Hi. Hi, my name is Sim Yenying YY. I'm a co-director and performer in Who's There. Sorry, I just want to make sure that the slides are up.
Oh, I think the slides are stuck. Hold on for a second.
Thank you.
Okay. We can start over again as soon as we get there. Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, my name is Sim Yenying YY. I'm a co-director and performer in Who's There.
And my name is Sean Devare, and I'm a performer creator in the show.
Who's There is an international virtual collaboration involving artists from Singapore, Malaysia, and the US. We started working together in early June over 8 cities and 5 time zones, and we will be presenting our work on Zoom as part of New Ohio Theater's Ice Factory Festival 2020.
In the show, a Black American influencer accuses a Malaysian bureaucrat of condoning blackface. YY plays a privileged Singaporean Chinese activist who meets a compassionate white savior type, and I play a political YouTuber who takes a DNA test for the first time to discover his ethnicity.
In this pandemic context zone, lines along race, class, gender bleed into one another, and we're asking what kinds of tensions and anxieties and possibilities are emerging during this period of revolution and how we can work to reimagine a new normal.
Who's There runs August 4th through 8th, and tickets are available now at bit.ly/Who's There 2020. We hope to.
Thank you, YY and Sean. Next up is Ashley Hermosura. Ashley?
Hi, my name is Ashley Chang. I run Angry Feminist Workouts on Instagram. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Next slide. Angry Feminist Workouts focuses on content that blends together feminism, social justice, and mental wellness. Activism is nothing without activity, and in posts, I show the many ways that one can be active in the revolution. Solidarity takes on many forms, just like working out and fitness do. There's always a form of resistance, be it in white supremacy and systemic injustice, or how our bodies and minds can be resistant to change. Neither fitness nor social justice should be overwhelming, and both should be done consistently. Some examples of posts that I have are on the next page, where I've attended prison abolitionist conferences, showcase activist leaders of the past, some protest posters linking migrant children detention centers to Angel Island, and videos of myself working out. If you're serious about the long-term consistency of your activism, I invite you to follow me. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Ashley. Next up is Katarina Nguyen.
Hi, so I'm a designer and I do creative prototypes on the side. I also help out DVAN, which is the Vietnamese Diaspora Artist Network. And so I was reflecting on how we can stay connected during this COVID season, because I feel like being able to occupy space is very important, especially if you're trying to integrate communities, and that is very difficult right now. So next slide. My idea is to create basically a music visualizer where we can showcase both good content from the community, but also start integrating, more visuals of like mixed POC in a way that is very easy to kind of bring into like people's homes, and also just kind of like get used to it. So if you go next slide, I think if this can play. Well, it has no sound, but basically this is a quick prototype of what the visualizer could look like. And so the idea is just to play through content, experiment with different ways of representing this, and kind of like, humanizing both sound and space a little bit more. Thank you. Oh, and sorry, next slide.
Oh, sorry, we're out of time. So thank you. Next up is Marie Paspy. Marie. Is Marie with us?
Hi everyone, sorry, I went and I was on mute. I'm ready, sorry. Okay, hi everyone, take two. Thank you A4 for having me. I'm a dance artist and concept creator using arts and dance as a medium for activism, decolonization, and sustainability. Like Mel before, as you can see, I'm on faculty at Ugnayan as well. For each of my offerings, I'm donating a portion of proceeds directly to the Lumad people, the indigenous tribes of the Philippines, whose land ownership and kind of livelihoods are truly threatened by Duterte's anti-terror bill at this time. Next slide. My first offering is a Decolonizing the Contemporary Body class. Next slide. I'm also offering floor work. Oh, that is Decolonizing the Body. And we're talking about my official meridians that connect our present traumas to our ancestral traumas, and how we can use movement along with the connective tissues to kind of understand that healing process. Next slide. The next offering is floor work. Next slide. That's mostly for advanced dancers and public people as well. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about town halls, and I'll be presenting a piece on August 7th.
Thank you so much, Marie. Appreciate that. Okay, and now for our final presenter, Hong Zhang Han.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Hong Zheng Han. My pronouns is they, them. I'm an independent curator living in New York City. In early March, I co-curated an exhibition entitled Within Global Isolation, Asian Artists in America, as a response to the increasing discrimination against Asian bodies in America. We have received relatively positive press from both artsy.com and the Brooklyn Rail. I'm looking to extend our program to a second exhibition, and we would include more South and Southeast Asian artists. I welcome any kind of suggestions, and if there is a possibility to turn this exhibition into a reality, a real exhibition in the future, that would be amazing. If you have any resources, please let me know. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you so much. All right, that was great. So appreciate all of that great work, and thank you all for sharing with us. So now anybody who would like to give a 30-second pitch, just to share your thoughts, your ideas, ask for help, whatever you want to do, you can raise your hand or just put your name in the chat box with your Instagram handle, and we will let you, does anybody want to give a 30-second pitch? Anjali, you can stop sharing. Great. All right. So if you want to pitch, okay. So Jackie Shao, and then anybody else who wants to go after that, feel free to just put your name in the chat box, and I'll call on you. So Jackie, you have 30 seconds. You can go.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to meet everyone. So I have an event coming up next week, and I'm going to put the link in the chat box. And essentially, I'm gathering Asian Americans to talk about race, our race specifically. I found that, like, you know, there's a lot of activism going on, and there's a lot of almost like no talking about things going on. And I feel like there may be some stepping stones in between. And so I want to fill that.
Thank you. Okay, next is Sarah Shin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Over the past couple weeks, I've been producing this virtual reading series through Asian American Theater Artists of Boston, this social collective that I run. That is based in Boston, but now it kind of doesn't matter anymore. But it's a series that's been highlighting Boston-based Asian American playwrights, actors, and directors. Our next reading is also our last reading. Is happening August 5th. It is Language of Their Own by Che-Yu, directed by Nicholas Polonio, who just did a reading with A4 a few weeks ago.
Fantastic, thank you. If you want to put the information about the reading or your stuff in the chat, that's fine, and we can share that tomorrow. Fantastic, so I don't think we have any other 30-second pitches. Last call. Okay, so now I just want to give a big round of applause to our featured presenters and to all of our 1 minute and 30-second pitchers. So what I'd like to do is, yes?
Can I pitch really quickly?
Yes.
So there are some kids in this call who I've been texting to try to get them to pitch Fridays for Freedom. So I'm gonna drop an Instagram in the chat and also a GoFundMe, which you don't have to do, but a GoFundMe. So part of my organizing work is I work with Don't You Portland, but I also help run Fridays for Freedom as a mentor, which is a youth-run high school age direct action group where we plan big protests and big like art actions every Friday until November. And so we're doing amazing work. There's a lot of different youth kind of organizing, and these kids are doing like crazy shit. Like we have protest gear and riot gear and everything. So I'm so proud of like these young people. And so I'm going to put our Instagram handle if you want to see any photos of what we're doing, and our GoFundMe. Yeah. So Jolly is saying yes because he's here, but he won't pitch it. Yeah. So I'm just going to put that in the chat just so you guys know. Thank you.
Okay.
Lisa,
yes.
Can I just drop one word for Asian American this theme? Have you ever known the artist called Fred Hall? He's a jazz musician, Fred Hall. Anybody know Fred Hall? Yeah. Fred, he passed away several years ago when he was young, but he is a great Chinese Asian American artist who considers himself the Afro-Asian and exactly work this solidarity between Asian and African American. So I've been working with him. So I just would like to drop his legacy, Fred Hall. I will put in the chat. He's somebody who needs to be.
Yeah, you can put that in the chat. And now Marina Chan, you wanted to give us 30 seconds.
Yes, thank you so much for fitting me in last second. I was told that I could briefly introduce myself. I'm not actually pitching, but just wanted to say that I'm a playwright and performer based in Brooklyn, New York. I conceived and headed the Asian Americans in Theater, Art, and Activism series for Asia Society and the Barnard Theater Department. And the series involves Asian American theater scholars and professionals examining issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now I'm focusing on my own playwriting and music, and I'm always looking for new and exciting artistic collaborators. And I'm also looking for some Zoom acting opportunities if any of you need an actor. You can find more information about me and my work at my website, marinachan.com, and you can also contact me directly there. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your amazing work.
Fantastic. All right, thank you, everyone. So we don't have a whole lot of time. I'm gonna do 2 5-minute Zoom sessions to try to keep us on track. So I'm gonna break you out into virtual smaller groups for, like I said, about 5 minutes, and then I'll rotate you into another group. So before you all leave, also, please remember to fill out the survey, which I just put in there. Feel free to make a donation to support our programs and events so we can keep doing this kind of stuff. And now if you'll just bear with me for a few hot seconds, I am going to put you into breakout rooms. And I hope that you can stick around and share resources, thoughts, ideas, actions, Instagram accounts, readings, anything like that. All right, we'll see you soon. So, okay, that wraps it up. So thank you, everybody. A special shout out to my amazing team at A4, to Anjali and Ting, and to Claudette. You all did fantastic. To our featured presenters tonight, Jess and Ameya, to all of our great pitchers. I love you all. I am so inspired by you. And if you wanna, again, if you wanna share anything, if you wanna share your contact information, you can put it in the chat. We'll send a follow-up email tomorrow with, some people asked for the digital land acknowledgement. We're happy to share that too. And yeah, please sign up for the next one, spread the word. If you want some amazing feedback and learning about more opportunities, sign up for the LMCC session on Monday night. Check out our website. And again, thank you, and I can't wait to do this again. So have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you in 2 months.